I know we're having technical issues. Hey,
Yeah.
so Jacob, as I was watching my favorite host, Nicole Wallace, and then Jacob just happened to be there. It's always a good thing
I
to
was
watch.
indeed.
Hey, talk about this
Are
because
we?
this,
Hey,
this
Brian, hold on
movie
one
is very,
second. I
very
just want to make
important.
sure. Are we recording?
Yes, I'm recording. Cool.
Great. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead, Brian. Forgive me for.
Hey, Kim, can you restart it?
Yes, it's ready.
Okay. All right, Jacob. Like I said before, as I was watching my favorite host, Nicole Wallace, I love seeing you on. You always make me laugh. I love your work. Congratulations on that. And really, congratulations on this movie because this movie is very, very important. What's your thoughts on where do you see mass deportations today? Where do you see it?
Brian, first of all, thank you so much for having me, and thanks for watching. Um, my thoughts are that we're on the verge of exactly what they said they were going to do. During the Republican convention, when I covered it from the floor, and they held up those signs, the largest mass deportation program in the history of the country, which really is just family separation by another name. And I learned when I covered family separation the first time around that if they say they're going to do something, they're going to do it. They deliberately and systematically took thousands of children away from their parents. And I think that we're on the verge of them doing that again. At least that's what they say they are going to do.
Yeah, I agree with you. And have you been drinking your yellow Gatorade first of all, and then talk about all of that things that you've been doing. This
Today I'm drinking a little bit of sparkling water, but yellow Gatorade comes out when I'm nervous, as I say in the movie. Um, to go around not only the country but the world with this film. I was in Mexico City last week. Has really been a profound honor and a privilege, and to get to work with the great Errol Morris, who can tell a story in a way that I never could. And that's why I'm so excited for people to be able to see the film on demand and wherever they rent their movies, because this is the beginning of the next chapter. But also looking back at the last one is an important reminder of where things are going to go. And I mean that for myself as much as I mean it for the people who are going to watch the film. As a journalist, it's a reminder of how to cover the incoming administration, the people like the Jonathan Whites and the Jalen Suologs, and the people that you meet inside Errol's film. And so that's really, as a reporter, what I think I've been getting ready for the most is how are we going to cover the incoming administration at a time when some of those very same civil servants may not be able to hold on to their jobs. I think it's an important reminder for everybody.
Alex Gibney, Errol Morris. I was there when those guys first started their first documentaries way back in the day. They've come a long way. They're doing a really, really good job.
Oh, Brian, you still there? Got a little bit of it.
Really quickly. What was that like? Yep. I was I'm not sure if you heard it. I was wondering what it was like for you to be on the other end of being interviewed for this movie.
Oh boy, uncomfortable, to be totally honest with you. I'm used to being in your chair, Brian, interviewing people. And when I sat in that chair across from the Interrotron from Errol Morris, I don't think my shoulders have ever been so stiff. I was uncomfortable. I was nervous. I didn't want to do it, as the truth. And Errol said, "No, you're doing it, buddy." And when Errol Morris says you're doing something, I say, "Yes, sir, Mr. Morris. Whatever you need, Mr. Morris." And that's exactly what I did. It was it was nerve wracking, but it was really exciting. And I know that I knew and I trusted, and in looking at the finished product, I'm so glad I did, because this is the great Errol Morris, not only one of my favorite filmmakers, but one of the great filmmakers of all time.
Talk about Know Your Rights pamphlet. I'm from Los Angeles, but I happen to be in those red states. So as you were in, where were you? As you were in Chicago, I was in Georgia. I think when you were at the Republican convention, I was in North Carolina, where I am right now. And then I was in Tennessee with all this stuff going on. So I've been following what you've been doing, but what I've been seeing on the road as a movie journalist who's also a critic in a way. It's really strange how the tides have turned. I'm seeing how a lot of my Trump supporting friends are being very nice people, but at the same time, they're politics go a long way.
Yeah, I guess I believe that what I believe is that some of those friends you mentioned, I got friends, we all have friends that have different political opinions from us, right? And I think what this film has taught me and what covering these issues has taught me is that so often when you get face to face like you and I are today, what emerges is more of a shared humanity than you ever possibly could have anticipated. But it's been so easy over the course of the last 8 years, but plus for the better part of a generation, to look at immigration as a political football, as data points on a chart, as people who are a bar graph, not as really as human beings, as I was saying to Nicole Wallace earlier today. And I think that the reason I'm so proud of getting the opportunity to not only cover this issue for NBC, but also to make the film with Errol, is it's a reminder that in the summer of 2018, we all had this X-ray vision to see that this was about humanity, that it wasn't about politics, that it was about treating our fellow human beings with the love and respect that they deserve. And just hearing your story about going around the country and sort of interacting with different people who might have different political points of view, I do find there's more common ground than we sometimes believe. And having conversations like this one or making this film has been a great reminder of that.
Well, one of the things, and the reason why I say that, because I've never caught COVID. I've always been careful. I get dibs on the best technology to remain safe. But at the same time, our world has changed. When the first president-elect was just coming in the office, I was a TCA member, Television Critics Association. So we're kind of responsible, unfortunately, for helping him get elected, because he always told us during Celebrity Apprentice that he wanted to be president. And
right there at the Langham in Pasadena, right?
Yep. Yeah. Still doing it. I'm one of the last journalists to hang out that's been around for 30 years, but yeah. You go back to 8 years ago. We've come a long way, but at the same time, I see the country sliding back, and it kind of saddens me in a way about our rights, our safety.
I think that I mean, what I would say is, as it relates to the immigration system, what making this film and covering this topic has taught me is that we've been going progressively more in this direction for the better part of a generation. And Democrats and Republicans alike have perpetuated a system that is based on the criminalization of migration, including Bill Clinton, who started with the first wave of border walls and prevention through deterrence. George Bush created DHS. Barack Obama deported more people than any president in the history of the country. And that's why, like that, Donald Trump was able to separate all those children from their parents. It's not so much a backsliding, in my opinion, as it is a continuation of policies that have been proven objectively not to work. If they did, people would stop coming to this country. And I'm not advocating for a different policy position, but I am, as a journalist, very cognizant of the fact that what I have seen hasn't stopped people from coming here. And so if there is another approach, it's on the policymakers to make it in reaction to what we do know about the system, what we have shown as journalists and filmmakers, that the way that things have gone, especially the most extreme iteration of it, the family separation policy, didn't work and it hasn't worked.
Talk about the Know Your Rights pamphlet. Why is that important? And do you see that really spreading cross country? Because I believe it's going to.
There are organizations today, as there have been under previous administrations, Democratic and Republican, who are out there telling migrant communities what their rights are in the face of potential immigration enforcement. And I leave it to them to sort of go through the particulars and the details of it. But I do know that to prepare for the incoming administration, as much as they did for others, Democrat and Republican, there are legal protections for people who are citizens and non-citizens alike in this country. And with the specter of mass deportation and the potential deportation of American citizens, as Donald Trump and Tom Homan have said, I understand why those organizations are out there in the field, committing to that advocacy right now.
When you first saw Stephen Miller, what did you think what was going to happen with him? Because you could just read his facial expression. He tries to hide it, but you can kind of see, and I see the smile on your face. We're probably thinking the same thing.
Well, I say in the movie, when I saw Stephen Miller for the first time in that Colorado ballroom in early 2016, I said, and I'm not going to use such salty language as I do in the movie, but who the heck is this guy? Because he was up there screaming about migrants in a way that I had never really heard. And even though we're both from Southern California, grew up miles apart from one another or close in age, it wasn't something that computed for me. But now he's one of the most powerful advisors to the incoming president of the United States. And he is going to be in a position to affect and effectuate policy in a way that is bigger and more impactful than it was during the first Trump term. And so I think it's an important reminder, the film is, of what he was responsible for, along with Tom Homan and other folks that are coming back to government today.
What do you hope the audience gets out of seeing Separated? Because it's a movie that needs to be seen. And it's a wonderful film of how everything was put together. But at the same time, it's a frightening film because you don't know what really will happen starting after January.
What I also hope is that it's inspirational in some measure. And that might sound crazy about a movie that's about, ripping children apart from their parents. But to me, the story of the career civil servants who did everything they could to stop the policy and in fact did make it, did stop it from becoming far worse. And it doesn't excuse or make the 5,500 separations that happened in any way more tolerable. But also the American people who stood up and stopped the policy. It's a reminder that we all have a stake in this, that the people have power to change policy in this country just as much as the politicians. And that's who stopped the family separation policy the first time around, was the people around the world in a universal way. It wasn't a bipartisan condemnation. It was a universal one. The Pope spoke out, as Lee Gallant memorably points out in the film. And I think that that's worthy of remembering now.
Last two questions. Talk about, I love when you go through the crowds and you talk to the audiences. Talk about what that was like, that energy was like in Chicago, because as you were getting around, oh man, you just, that energy that you had was just wonderful to see.
Thank you very much, Brian. I love my job and I love being with people. And I think it's one of the things that Errol Morris and I have in common. He loves talking to people and meeting them where they're at. And I do too. And so I really honestly mean it. I don't think that there's a thing I enjoy more than being on the floor of those party conventions every 4 years, because whether they're Republican or Democrat, or whether I'm on the plaza for the Today Show talking to people outside, you get the opportunity to put a microphone in someone's face and let them tell you their story. And I think that's why we all sign up for this job. You get to do it around film. I get to do it around whatever the news is of the day out in the country. And it is very, very fulfilling. And I'm grateful I get the opportunity to do that.
Last question. Can you get the social media links for people to watch the film to see how it goes from here? Because this is something that never stops. The last 3 years have been the best that I've seen cross-country for documentaries, and this is one of them. Also, and one of them that NPR put out also was The Last Republican with Steve Pink and Adam Kinzinger. And yes. Wonderful film. And so I always am promoting these films on my Tuesday night live show, which has 2.5 million views and counting, and we're one of the best outlets in the world. And that's why I wanted to do this interview, because I constantly am talking about those great movies that people don't know where to find them. So I'm telling them how to find them, where, and never give up on seeing them if you can't see them on the big screen, because I tell those theater owners, people aren't going back to the theaters. Yeah. And I could say that. You can't say that, but my job is to get them to go, because I'm actually seeing what they're not doing across.
God bless you for that, Brian. Well, what people can do is starting on December 17th, Tuesday, you can go on Amazon, Apple, YouTube, Google Play, or Fandango at home, and Separated will be available to rent or to own on all of those platforms. And so I really hope people go check it out.
And last question, where do you go from here? You want to be an anchor one day?
No, I love my job. I love my job. I'm happy doing what I'm doing. If I just get to go to conventions for the rest of my life and report from the floor, I'll take it. It's been the honor and a privilege of a lifetime for the last 10 years to work for NBC News, and I hope I get to do 10 more.
You know, my last goal is to run into you either at the Four Seasons of Beverly Hills, or if I run into Willie Galson and Joe or Mika again, because I just love what you guys do. You guys do such a great job. And it makes me do our show like what you guys are doing. So I want to thank you for that.
I appreciate you, Brian. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it, your interest and all the work that you do.
Oh, yeah. You got to get that word out there. And from doing all of these,
Tell me about it. Keep on keeping on. Thank you for getting the word out.
Oh, yeah. I thank you. Good talking to you.
All the best. Likewise, Brian. Thanks for watching.